We're headed downtown, 14th Street, Union Square, to talk about waste management. Please welcome Geneva Marfa to the podium.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of the team, thank you for taking the time today to hear about our semester's worth of work on trash in Union Square. So today I'll briefly walk through our client and the goals of our project, our methodology and what we learned, and then wrap up with recommendations on how we propose to achieve the project's goals. So first things first, our client this semester was the Union Square Partnership, one of 75 New York City business improvement districts who works to ensure the best possible neighborhood for its residents, businesses, and visitors. One of the primary functions of the partnership is sanitation. USP spends about $1 million on their sanitation budget yearly, comprising roughly a third of the total. Additional services provided by the partnership are public safety, park beautification, and hosting events. So now that you know a little bit about USP, let's get into why they brought Suma on board. The partnership is looking for us to answer 3 questions. What is currently happening with their waste and waste services? How can USP achieve zero waste to landfill? And is there interest in the business community for sustainable waste management? So before I walk you through our approach and our findings, let's talk about our stakeholders. Street Plus is the company that the partnership contracts with to manage waste within the district. The Clean Team is the group of 20 workers who are on the ground in the district, emptying trash bins, picking up litter, cleaning up graffiti, and generally keeping the place beautiful. The Department of Sanitation of New York is the unit of government within the city responsible for garbage collection, recycling, street cleaning, and snow removal. Local businesses are those companies that we have connected with to understand their interest in zero waste programming generally and how the bid could use its unique position as a facilitator to move the overall agenda forward. We engaged primarily with these 3 groups, but there are many players here, including residents, private haulers, and other community institutions. To help answer our main questions, we approached our research in 3 ways. Desktop research to understand best practices within New York, globally, and in different types of organizations, interviews with stakeholders that I mentioned earlier, and finally, a pilot waste characterization study to understand the composition and primary drivers of waste flowing through the district. So now I'll walk you through how we tried to answer each one of those questions posed by our client. So first, what is currently happening with USP's waste services, and where does their trash go? Through times on the ground spent with the Clean Team and interviews with DSNY and Street Plus, as well as a review of other submitted contractor proposals, we have drawn some conclusions to help us answer this question. First, USP pays Street Plus for the team members' hourly work, not by the weight of trash or any other metric, as they are truly an operations team and their time is spent going beyond just waste management. Second, existing contract and billing structure does not provide detailed information on how the Clean Team spends their time throughout their shifts. However, we've learned that Street Plus does quantify some other metrics for other bids. And third, because both DSNY and Street Plus pick up the bid's trash, it's difficult to measure USP's specific waste footprint with 100% accuracy. So next, we also needed to understand the waste life cycle of USP's waste. So I'll walk you through what we learned. First, the Clean Team collects trash and brings it to a designated collection point, or leaves it next to the trash cans for pickup in the bid by either DSNY or Street Plus. Depending on where the garbage is located when picked up, it's either taken directly to the Covanta Waste to Energy plant in Essex, New Jersey, or to one of 2 transfer stations, also in New Jersey, where the waste is combined with other municipal waste and then onto landfills in upstate New York, Pennsylvania, or Virginia. We estimate that 30% of the trash is going waste to energy, and the remaining 70% is going to landfill. So now that we know a little bit more about USP's waste situation, let's move on to the next question. How can they achieve zero waste to landfill? We looked at best practices for building a waste management plan with the goal of achieving zero waste. First, it's important to understand the baseline and know what's in your trash via a waste characterization study. The next step is developing a waste hierarchy. Waste management experts, including the EPA, have developed waste hierarchies that resemble the one here. These can serve as a guide for the bid. The hierarchy gives top priority to waste reduction and reuse, followed by recycling and composting, and then moves to less desirable waste management practices of energy recovery and disposal. To achieve zero waste to landfill, the bid should continue to move up the waste hierarchy. To help achieve the first step in this, we did a pilot waste characterization study. We planned the waste characterization study in partnership with the client to better understand trends through specific locations of trash in the bid. For example, to find out whether or not being close to the subway or close to a grab-and-go eatery would have any impact on the waste composition. We worked with the clean team to collect bags on a weekday and a weekend, labeled each bag with a specific location, and stored them overnight before bringing them to the Covanta Waste-to-Energy plant in Rahway, New Jersey. Our day at Covanta started off with a quick safety training, after which we dove right into the trash. We weighed each bag individually before opening it up, and then separated out the trash into pre-designated categories such as hard plastics, mixed paper, soft plastics, glass, and food. As much as possible, we aligned our categories with those used in the DSNY waste characterization, but did not go to as deep a level of detail. Once separated, we weighed each category and recorded the weight of almost 50 bags and over 600 pounds of trash. That's not all of our trash. I'm sure you're curious to know what we found. So the largest categories we found were mixed paper at 23% of total, hard plastics at 17%, food at 15%, and paper cups at 10%. The remaining categories were a mix of glass, soft plastics, cardboard, dog waste, among other miscellaneous items. From this information, we drew some conclusions. Though we expected to find some differences in the composition of waste by area, we actually found that the dominant categories maintained throughout the zones and throughout the days. Secondly, we found that the big belly solar compactor trash cans do not actually compact the trash. When opening those bags, they looked the same as all the others. And finally, we've determined that about 50% of trash is recyclable, including hard plastics, glass, aluminum, and mixed paper. So finally, we move on to question 3. While the near-term priority for USP is to increase sustainability of the sanitation services within the district, they also want to gauge existing interest in zero waste programming and support among key community stakeholders. So we interviewed local businesses to help understand pain points, areas of opportunity, and where USP can help. We learned that each business has its own waste hauler, so they have limited leverage and no scale across the bid. We heard that most are challenged to find a reliable trash pickup service, and almost all businesses pay a flat, somewhat arbitrary fee to their hauler, decoupled from the actual amount of waste, the weight or volume of the waste that they generate. We did, however, see a genuine interest in learning more about improving waste management practices from some businesses within the bid. So now I'll briefly review our go-forward recommendations. To improve existing services, we recommend asking Street Plus to provide more specific data on how the clean team spends their time. With this data, USP can identify inefficiencies, tell better stories, and determine longer-term trends to see where improvements can be made. We recommend performing a comprehensive waste characterization study that can capture seasonal variations within the bid's trash. This can also serve to establish a baseline and be updated annually to measure impacts of a sustainable waste program. We also recommend engaging the community to educate them on the work that the clean team does to gain a sense of ownership for waste in the district. This may help change public behavior and source litter reduction. Next, I'll talk about pathways to zero waste. Recognizing that the road to zero waste does not occur overnight, one piece of low-hanging fruit USP should tackle is diversion of recyclables and organics at their signature events. Secondly, though we couldn't capture the waste composition during bistro season, we did find 15% of waste was food, and believe this presents an opportunity. We're recommending a pilot organics collection program at Union Square Park. Given that the results of the waste characterization study show that over 50% of waste by weight is composed of recyclable materials, we're recommending that USP coordinate with DSNY to introduce recycling into the bid. From our conversations with DSNY, they're surprised that there is no recycling currently in the district and express that the city is trying to get as much out of the current recycling program as possible to align with 1MIC goals. Lastly, we see an opportunity for creation of a forum with the business community on sustainable waste management within the bid. We learned that there is interest, but no existing platform to serve these needs specifically. We recommend organizing a quarterly connect for businesses within the bid to share best practices, facilitate conversations, which we hope will lead to scaling for impact across the bid. We also envision this forum evolving to include engagement with sanitation service providers and other organizations to reduce waste in the medium term. Thank you for your time, and I hope you learned as much as we did. So I'll open the floor up for questions.
Hi, I was wondering if you guys were taking into account the L train shutdown and the added traffic on 14th Street, and how that will probably increase waste or not.
Yeah, so there's definitely, actually, one of the people currently interning at the bid who's in our program is focusing on the L train shutdown. So we'll be sharing the results of our waste characterization study with them by trash can. And so depending on kind of how they're thinking about where the influx of people will be coming from, we'll be able to give them data on potentially how the number of people and the waste in those specific cans could change or just might need to be increased. So it's definitely something the bid is thinking about. In terms of like our specific recommendations, we did not go down the path of saying you're going to have X many more people, you need X more staff, but I do think that that's something that they're definitely considering.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. With regard to your pilot program suggestion for organics collection, I'm curious if you envisioned that as utilizing a private hauler, or if you would be able to take advantage of the DSNY's curbside pickup voluntary sign-on.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So actually currently in the district, alongside kind of the green markets, there is organics collection a few times. I think it's 4 times a week. We were thinking, based on kind of the engagement that we've had with different people, that we would use a private person based on the type of, this is like lunch food, right? So thinking that one of the kind of partners that we connected with had a pretty reasonable service for collecting kind of all organics, and then taking it back and being able to really turn it into a good kind of just be able to do something good with it, versus it being really difficult to separate and really kind of align to some of those really strict, potentially more strict rules that come along with the kind of brown bin DSNY organics collection. Yeah.
Geneva, how did waste prevention figure into your thinking about?
Yeah, good question. So we were thinking as part of, so essentially for the bid, we built them a sample agenda of what their first kind of interaction with the business community could look like. And one of the topics there we were thinking of is like a bid-wide coffee loyalty program that could then kind of reduce it up front, because we found that although I think it was just 10% of our trash was coffee cups, that's by weight, and when we were there doing the characterization study, it's definitely felt like a lot more. So that was one idea that we were thinking of, and I think we could potentially understand the success of that and then go further down, but obviously that's like the top of the hierarchy, so just a couple ideas there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.